Lovely. If anyone has any technical difficulties as well, please feel free to just send me an email. It's mercedes@foundationscotland.org.uk, and I will do my best to help. So. I'm hoping that you can all see that. Alice, if you could give a thumbs up because I can see you. Oh. There we go. Sorry about that. Lovely. All right, so as I said, thank you everyone for being here today. It's very much appreciated. I saw some familiar names and faces and also perhaps some newcomers to the programme. So essentially today we're going to be doing a bit of exploration. This is the Funding the Future of Youth in Scotland webinar, and we'll be looking at the Essentia Foundation, more specifically the multi-year awards programme that is going to launch this week on Thursday. In terms of what we're going to do, we're first going to take a little look at the Essentia Foundation as an organisation, who they are, their grant making activity, and then we'll take a brief look at Foundation Scotland and the partnership role that we play. We'll be looking at some best case projects that have been funded by the Foundation in the past, just to spotlight the kind of things that the Foundation is interested in funding. And then we'll move on to the multi-year awards programme itself. We'll look at eligibility criteria, some key features of the programme, as well as the general eligibility criteria when submitting an application to Foundation Scotland. And then we should have some time for some questions and answers towards the end. So do make note throughout if you have anything that crops up in your mind, and I'll do my best to answer. We have a few trustees from the Essentia Foundation here today, so if they would like to say anything towards the end, then I'd be very much appreciated. But just to get underway, the Essentia Foundation is essentially a charity that once operated health and social welfare telephone counselling and information services. When the company was sold, the Essentia Foundation was essentially established. The Foundation have been active in grant making since 2017. And since 2020, they've provided almost £200,000 worth of awards to small organisations across Scotland that work with young people from birth to 25 years. In terms of their kind of charitable objectives, I mentioned that they fund young people up to the age of 25 years. It is very much thematically a youth-based grant-making programme. And essentially, the Foundation would like to help organisations achieve the following objectives. So that's improved health and social welfare of children and young people up to the age of 25 years old, and also increased opportunities for training, enhancing learning, upskilling and developing career opportunities, and supporting young people up to the age of 25 years to move towards employment. So these are essentially two of the key pillars of the Foundation and the work that they do. I mentioned Foundation Scotland and where do we come in? So for a bit of context, my name is Mercedes. I'm a funds advisor at Foundation Scotland, and the role that we play is essentially we're the administrative partner with the Foundation. So we oversee the application process and the assessment process and assist in the decision-making process by organising meetings. We also do things like promotion, evaluation and reporting. Unlike the kind of England system, which has community foundations scattered across different regions, Foundation Scotland are actually Scotland's community foundation. So we're kind of the one singular entity that works with the communities. So we currently work with over 150 communities. We have over 400 funders who count on our services. And last year, we celebrated our 25th birthday, and we've invested over 130 million into communities across Scotland. For a bit of context, our impact over the past 12 months meant that we've paid out £18.3 million worth of grants. This equated to around 3,395 grants, and these monies were distributed across 275 different funds. So just to go back to the Essentia Foundation, I'm aware that the multi-year awards programme is a kind of new pilot initiative, but I did want to shed some light on some of the projects that have been funded in the past, just so that you get a clearer idea of what the fund prioritises and you can kind of understand the best best practice examples of the projects and activities that have been funded. So moving to the Scottish borders first, we have Live, Learn, Earn CIC. In August 2021, the organisation was awarded a grant of £3,000 by the Essentia Foundation, and this was to undertake a sports-based project that would empower and build the capacity of young people. So the project involved the provision of indoor bike skill sessions that took place in Peebles. They were held in a local community hall, and they were staffed by both expert tutors and volunteers. I think crucially for this project, all of the activities were made free of charge to any of the young people who'd like to participate. So it really was about expanding capacity and widening participation in the community. The sessions were also directly supported by Scottish Bike Trial, and they assisted with things like insurance, risk assessments, as well as bringing along the bikes, equipment and volunteers. So if a young person or their family couldn't afford a bike, this wasn't an issue and it didn't hinder participation. The project has since come to an end. Activities have been completed. And if we look at the figures on here, the organisation kind of did an evaluation and they found that 49 young people reported increased resilience because of the project. 380 young people ended up participating in the sport and leisure activities, and 60 hours of education and training were provided. If we take a look, you can see the promotional poster for this project. And in their own words, the project mentioned that without the support of the Essentia Foundation, our free indoor biking sessions would not have been able to give hundreds of young people the chance to pedal themselves daft and learn some amazing biking skills. So this is very much a sports-based project that aimed to kind of build capacity, teach new skills, but also encourage kind of health and well-being. Another best practice project that we have is I Am Me Scotland. This organisation is in the Central Belt in Paisley. And in August 2021, they too were awarded a grant of £3,000 from the Essentia Foundation. And this was to launch a new Down syndrome awareness project that aimed to educate young people on bullying and disability hate crime. So the project activities commenced in the summer of last year. The project's now come to an end. But in terms of how they use the grant, so I Am Me Scotland used grant monies to contract a group of professional animators to create a short film. This was narrated by Chloe, who's 8 years old and has Down syndrome, and 6 other children with Down syndrome provided additional input and commentary for the video, and this highlighted their achievements and ambitions. The film is now being shown across primary schools in Scotland as part of the curriculum. And the film has also gone on to win numerous awards and was even showcased at a film festival in North America. I will send the link to this film, which can be found on YouTube, in the follow-up email to this session. I implore everyone to go and watch it. It's a really amazing, heartfelt, uplifting kind of piece of work. And it's a great way for young people to learn from other young people about bullying and disability hate crime. You can see the promotional image for the film festival here from the organisation. And this quote is from one of the participants themselves, who said, "I really loved working with I Am Me Scotland and I was proud to be part of the project. It is amazing to win awards and to feel supported in this way, just for letting everyone know about Down syndrome and how amazing we are and what we can do." So these are just 2 examples of numerous different projects that are taking place across Scotland. But hopefully it gives you a flavour about the foundation and the awards that it's given and the projects that it likes to prioritise. If we move on to the multi-year awards programme, it's worth mentioning that traditionally the Essentia Foundation has given small grants of £3,000 to organisations, and these were for projects that tended to last 12 months. So the multi-year awards programme is a little bit different. It's a pilot initiative, and as you can see here, the multi-year awards programme will distribute a grant of £9,000, and this will equate to 3 instalments of £3,000. So this money will be distributed over a period of 3 years. The projects will commence in 2022 and end by 2025. Similar to what they've done in the past, the Essentia Foundation will continue to support young people up to the age of 25 years, so it definitely remains a youth-orientated grant-making programme. And a key feature of the programme as well, as it has always been, is that the Essentia Foundation essentially supports smaller organisations with a smaller financial capacity. And in practice, this means that the programme is open to organisations with an annual income of less than £250,000. If you see this central circle here, you'll see that essentially the thematic principles of the multi-year awards programme is much the same as it has been with previous grant-making activities. So the Essentia Foundation is still looking to provide financial support to charities that will improve the health and social welfare of children and young people, and provide increased opportunities for training, enhancing learning, upskilling and developing career opportunities, and crucially support young people to move towards employment. So these are the kind of 5 key pillars of the multi-year awards programme. But I'm sure you're all interested in a few more of the practical elements. So just to scope in further, if we look at the purpose of this multi-year fund, I think you'll notice first and foremost from this kind of orange banner that the programme, like it always has been, is Scotland-wide. So just a reminder to everyone, it's not a geographic fund. There's no stipulations about where you need to be to apply. It's open to all organisations based in Scotland, and anyone in any organisation in any of the local authorities in Scotland can submit an application for funding. I did look at the 2 main pillars of the programme, but in terms of projects and kind of the more specific activities that the foundation are looking to support, you'll notice that there's 5 key points here. So projects, the fund is looking to support projects that support the participation in mainstream society for individuals with learning disabilities or long-term limiting health conditions. They'd like to support young people who face long-term challenges living in poverty and inequality. The foundation would also like to support those who've been excluded from school to access or return to education or training opportunities. It would like to provide skills and training to those who are furthest from the labour market. And it would also like to support projects that aim to improve the health and welfare of children and young people, being those under 25. Just to note, we're not asking that every project ticks all of these boxes, but I think it's a good kind of chart by which you can see where your project would potentially fit into any of these 5 points. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to wait till the end. Alternatively, if you have a proposal for a project, but you're not quite sure if it would fit with this fund, then please feel free to send me an email and I can take a look at the things you might be wishing to apply for and let you know if it's something that would be eligible. So speaking of eligibility criteria, I'm going to go through 2 different steps. So first of all, we're going to take a quick look at the eligibility criteria for this specific fund. So for the Essentia Foundation's grant-making programme. And then we're going to look at the eligibility criteria for Foundation Scotland. So if we first of all turn our heads to the Essentia Foundation, I did want to highlight a few key points. First and foremost, it's important when you're submitting a grant application to firstly know what you cannot be funded. So I've mentioned repeatedly throughout, but just for clarification, the Essentia Foundation cannot support the following. So that would be projects benefiting those over the age of 25 years. It cannot support standalone costs for small capital or equipment. Grant requests that are less than 25% of the total project cost. I did want to explain this one a little bit further because it's something that we've noticed a lot of applicants have done in the past. So just for clarification, the fund can only support applications where the grant request is at least 25% of the total budget of that project. So please do not apply to the programme if, for example, your project as a whole exceeds £36,000 and that being the £9,000 grant as an individual. If you have any questions on this, just feel free to ask. Another thing, the Essentia Foundation cannot support applications from individuals or private businesses. The organisation cannot support submissions from organisations with an annual gross income of more than £250,000. The Essentia Foundation cannot support activities that are understood to be a statutory responsibility and or seek to replace statutory sources of funding. Just for clarification, the organisation cannot support, things like a school, but it can support individual kind of constituted parent groups that essentially are separate from the school but represent their interests. Again, any questions on that and I'll be willing to help. And finally, we have pre-existing costs that your organisation has already incurred as a result of its day-to-day activities. And by this, I simply mean retrospective funding. So these are just very important to remember when you're applying specifically to the Essentia Foundation. As you'll be submitting your application through Foundation Scotland, there's also a few key eligibility criteria to take into account. I've included an image of this video. This is under the top tips for applications page that we have on the Foundation Scotland website. And again, I can provide a link to it in the follow-up email, but it's a really great kind of informative infographic video. It doesn't take too long to watch and it provides a very kind of extensive overview of how to submit an application to Foundation Scotland. Another thing to remember when you're submitting an application to Foundation Scotland, so it will all be done electronically. You submit your application through our website, and I'll go into detail about that in a little bit. But it's important to note that these are the key baseline criteria for when you submit an application to us. So things to think about are essentially, are you a constituted group? Do you have at least 3 unrelated members on your management committee board? Do you have independently examined signed annual accounts, or are you in your first year of operation? If you're a younger organisation that's just started out, then we do accept projections for your income for the year. Obviously, we recognise that you may not actually have your annual accounts by that point. Another thing to think about is, do you have a bank account in the name of your group? Do you have at least 2 cheque signatories and are all signatories unrelated? And finally, if you work with vulnerable adults, children, young people, do you have a policy on this? Now, since the Essentia Foundation funds organisations that work with young people up to the age of 25, we would expect a mandatory submission of a up-to-date safeguarding policy. But if you have any questions on safeguarding, just feel free to get in touch. Sorry, just to say as well, if you do have any questions on this, again, feel free to ask after the session ends. And in terms of the specific multi-year awards programme, we have the key programme timelines. So I just wanted to give you a brief walkthrough of everything that you can expect during the application process. So these are the key dates to remember. We have the programme launch date, which will be on Thursday, the 19th of May. Applications will be made available at 9 AM. And as I mentioned, these can be found via the Foundation Scotland website. So if you go to the Essentia funding page, you'll scroll down, you'll see a blue box that says how to apply, and there'll be a link where you can register for an application form, and this will be sent to you via email. Applicants have till the 27th of June, till midnight, to submit applications. Just for a practical note, you can edit your application as you go on. So it's not a case of you have to fill it out all at once or you'll lose all the information. You can kind of stop and start with your application, and you have until the 27th of June to do so. We do always recommend that you have the text of your application in a Word document, just in case technical difficulties arise. It does happen, so it's something that we recommend. In terms of decision to applicants, so this is whether you're successful or unsuccessful, these will be notified to organisations, always done via email, and this will be August 2022. For contingency, we've put the date of the 31st of August on the website, but we aim to get back to you a little bit earlier than that. I mentioned that all applications are to be submitted online, so we do not take paper applications or applications by post. And for this programme, organisations will be expected to complete an application form. There'll also be a budget template and a Word document work plan that will be provided to you, as this is a 3-year programme, so it does require a bit of planning. And all of these documents will be sent to you alongside the application form when you register for one. If you have any questions on how to apply, the website, please feel free to ask at the end. I know I mentioned it earlier, but you can see my email there on the screen. It's mercedes@foundationscotland.org.uk. I'll be taking all questions that are specific to the Essentia Foundation. But if you're new to Foundation Scotland and you just would like to learn a little bit more about funding available, then I'll be happy to direct you to kind of what opportunities there are. I'm happy to help whenever. I can take phone calls. But it's also important to mention that we do have a comprehensive help for applicants section on our website, and this provides the breakdown on eligibility criteria, financial management, safeguarding. So it's a bit of a one-stop shop if you're completely new to the process, and it's a great starting point for applicants. We're going to have the question and answer session, and then we might have a few words from trustees if they would like, but I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and then we can move back to talking as a group. And if anyone has a specific question, you can feel free to unmute yourself, or if we're going to get an influx of questions, then feel free to use the reaction chat and you can just pop your hand up and I can work my way through. So thank you all for sitting through that. I know it's a lot of information to take on, but if you do have any questions, now's the time to ask.
Hi, Anna Connon here. I don't know why, that is my cat, it's not me. I can't get computer to video me. But
not a problem.
It was actually just a question. You were saying that you can't do ongoing projects. So every year we do a summer programme for young people to take part in rugby summer camps. So because we've done it in previous years, does that mean we couldn't apply for funding for the next 3 years?
No, so by kind of retrospective funding, I mean if you've already spent monies, so you're essentially, you're asking for money that's already been spent. If you do something every year and you've yet to kind of use any money for that specific summer activity, then that's absolutely fine to submit a proposal for. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much.
No worries. Lisa, you've got your hand up.
Sorry, I think the mouse, my mouse battery must be going flat.
No worries.
I'm to get across there to my thing. Could you tell me a bit more about what a work plan is?
Yeah, so essentially it's just a Word document. We're aware that obviously it's a 3-year project, so it will just essentially what you'll be asked to fill out a few different boxes from maybe the planning stage of your project to when you expect to do the first activity, to the second, to the third. It can be as detailed as you'd like, but there's also guidance on how to fill out each of those boxes within the template itself. But if you have any questions when you're filling it out, just feel free to send me an email.
Okay, thanks.
No worries. Any other questions? Kath.
Hi there. I was just wondering if you're from an organisation whose income is round about 250 grand and you're trying to sort of foresee in 3 years' time what it will be, you know, it might be a little over, a little under, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, and I recognise that a lot of organisations might have slightly inflated accounts because of COVID-19 and the emergency funding that was available. So we do take everything on a case-by-case basis, but there is what we essentially do when we check that income is we look at the most recent annual accounts. So that's just something to bear in mind. If it was, you know, over the 250 mark, then it most likely would not go through the eligibility criteria. Susan.
So does this mean that you're not doing just the yearly funding anymore, or is the 3-year project in addition to a yearly sort of grant?
That's a perfect question. Thank you for asking. So essentially what we used to do is we had 2 different grant making rounds in the year. So one that would be awarded in the winter, and then we'd have kind of a summer autumn round. Both of those were for the 1 year 3,000 as normal. Now we're doing one multi-year awards program, and then we'll continue to do one of the 1 year 3,000. So that won't stop. And more kind of updates on when that next program will launch will kind of follow in due course, but organizations will have the opportunity to apply for the 1 year grant if it's a better fit for them.
Thank you.
Nicola.
Yeah, hi, thank you. If an organisation has had funding before for a project through the 1 year grant, and we were looking to do something similar but longer term, would you still consider that even though it's been funded by the 1 year grant before?
Yeah, so organisations that have received funds can apply for application. They can apply an application, sorry, but the thing to bear in mind is that organisations who've completed their projects and submitted their final report, they can submit, a funding application. If you have a grant with us that's live and you're still undertaking activities, then you'd have to probably wait to the next year to do so.
Okay, thank you.
David Williams.
Hi, yes. You gave a list of project funding criteria. I think there were 5 or 6 of them. Do projects that cover more than one have greater priority than those that only cover one of them?
No. Yeah, no, but every project will be taken on its own merit. We recognise that, some projects will fit more than one. So yeah, no, you're fine. Nicola, do you have another question?
No, sorry, I just haven't.
No, that's all right. Susan?
Yeah, sorry, just thought there, although you ask for it to be at least 25% of the project, do you look favourably on match funding though, or does it matter if it's like the entire project that you're asking for?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So yeah, if you have a request, the project, say the full project costs are 9,000 and you're submitting a request for 9,000, that's absolutely fine. It's just the 25% rule that applies. We do analyse match funding. So there's a part of the application form where you're asked about what funding you may have applied for towards the project, and we ask for details on that. Again, we take every project on a case-by-case basis, but it is always positive to see if there's, especially if it's a project that has a bigger budget, if you've located other funders who may be able to support it.
Thanks.
Any final questions? Bethany?
Hi there. I'm just wondering if you could tell me what the monitoring's like for the fund.
Yeah, no problem. So essentially, what we tend to do is we'll do kind of an informal chat halfway through your project. So for the ones that we traditionally done, we might give you a ring during the 6-month period just to see how you're getting on, to ask if you've had any bumps in the roads or if you've had any problems. But you will be asked to submit a final report. Again, that's all done online, and you can submit kind of any audio-visual materials you'll have with that. For the multi-year awards, it will be the same. So every 12 months, you'll be asked to submit a report just to provide updates on your project so that we can release the next installment of the 3,000. I hope that helps.
Perfect, thank you.
Any other questions? No. If something pops up, then please feel free to email me. There will be a comprehensive follow-up email, and this will be made available on the website as well, so you'll be able to go back to it as and when you please. I don't know if anyone from the Essentia Foundation wants to say any words. Alice, I can see you raise your hand. Thank you. Alice, sorry, your volume's gone. We can't hear you. No. That's no worries. A slight technical difficulty. It may be that we attach some kind of final words of thank you from the trustees in the follow-up email. But just to say thank you so much for coming today. It's been a huge turnout. I don't think I've ever had this many people interested in applying. Again, I know I've mentioned it 100 times, but if you do have questions, there's no question that's silly. There's no question that's too small, or you think, oh, this is a stupid question to ask. It's always likely that it isn't a stupid question to ask. So feel free to send me an email and I'll do my best to help. Yep, the application forms, as I mentioned, will be live on Thursday. And if you have any questions, let me know, and best of luck to you. With all of the applications that you submit. I look forward to taking a look at them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.